Would you eat the moon if it were made of ribs? It's a simple question.
Okay, I really want this to work. Here we go. Take 512. Here's my drink. Here's my guest.
That's right.
There you go. Okay, we're on week 7 of The Artist's Way. I am working through this book, if you're not familiar, Way by Julia Cameron. I am doing all 12 weeks it's a spiritual journey to become more creative. Week 7. Now, last week we were talking about abundance because the week before that was talking about lack. So, lack, abundance. Now we're talking about recovering a sense of connection. How do we become connected? Page 117. Now she starts off by talking about listening, and listening it's not a difficult thing for me because I'm not a talker, but I think it's difficult for people who like to talk. Do you find it hard to listen to people?
Sometimes I find it hard to listen to people, but only when they're not interesting. I'm just being like completely honest. Sometimes I just don't want to listen to people because I think they're boring. And so if there's a certain level of therapeutic listening that you listen to somebody as a form of service. And I think a lot of times there are much more patient people out there that have listened to me as a form of service. And it was tremendously helpful for me.
I like that as a form of service. I like
that
term.
Sometimes you just shut up and just do your thing.
Well, I guess I do. I know that I do this. I unintentionally stop listening when I do get bored with someone.
Yes.
And that's
I've seen you do that before.
Yes, that
you've done that to me before.
People have told me, usually family members have, said I go into Lokezia Wonderland and I just space out. I have a lot of times it happens to me where I just want to stare into the middle of nowhere, and people all try to go like, hello, like jokingly, and I'm like, get out of my way, I was spacing out here. Anyway,
I'm busy spacing out. I will say today I watched this really great documentary about the Red Tent movement. It's called Things We Don't Talk About: Women's Stories from the Red Tent. It's a really good show. You can stream it on Amazon. I think it's only $1.99.
Yes, that's the link that you sent me.
Yes, right. But are you going to put that in the description? You should put it in the description.
I'll put it in the description and then I'll watch it this week.
It's a good movie. But listening was actually they made a point of talking about listening, and they would have, they'd have a talking circle, and that Native American tradition where you have the talking stick. It's like, and you could be holding anything you want, but the person who has the stick, the person who has the stick, it's their turn to talk, and when they're done talking, they pass the stick, and if you don't have the stick, it's your turn to listen. And I think that as an artist, as you're trying to develop your creative self, it's very important to listen. I know that as a writer, as a writing artist, I do a lot of listening. Like I'll just walk through a space, or I'll walk past people, or I'll sit and I'll just listen to people talk, because it helps me to develop a vocabulary bank in my head of what certain types of people talk like. And sometimes just based on listening to other people talk, or listening to other people tell each other their problems, like I'll be completely outside of it and I'll be listening to those two people talking about their problems, or somebody talking on the phone. You end up getting insights into human nature that you wouldn't otherwise. So if you are the type of person that talks a lot, and I think that those of you know who you are, you have tendency to dominate conversations, or maybe share your own problems a little too much and you don't know much about other people, it's really valuable to learn to listen.
Yes.
Because it's a type of focus, it's a type of paying attention to what's going on around you, and that helps to open up your creativity.
Now, one thing, the group that I did a few of these weeks of the book with when I was on campus, one of the members in the group mentioned that we didn't get this far, but he was saying that he has a hard time, a difficult time being with himself, like doing things by himself, like going places, like going to the store, or like going to museums, or whatever. He had a hard time being with himself. And I think that maybe an exercise that you can do if you want to learn how to listen more is to learn how to be with yourself more. Because in the book, she was talking about relating listening to being an artist of whatever your art is, whatever your craft is, listening to the inner voice of, turning, like you said, you write the stories and you listen to people, how they talk, and like their vernacular, or like the types of things that they say and types of things they complain about
their
life,
personality, their culture,
their personality and culture. Listening to that as it's mixing around in your head, and then getting it out in the form of your craft. Does that make sense?
Yes, and it's important to develop that. And if you're not listening, you're looking, you're observing. You're the dispassionate observer. You're not judging what's happening around you. You're just sort of taking it in the way it is. And I think that you touched on something that's really important. If you have a hard time being with yourself, then there's a really good chance that you're not comfortable with your inner dialogue.
Yes.
You probably judge yourself or think of yourself poorly. And so that could be a relationship that you listen to as well. Maybe you don't listen to yourself. Maybe you don't follow your inner knowledge.
Yes. The next part of the chapter, which is this is what I want to focus on for the rest of our little chatty chat, is perfectionism, which this leads into that of having this sense of with the things that you do aren't perfect, or if they just aren't right. Have you ever heard someone say, you know what, I'm such a perfectionist? I mean, I think everyone has heard someone say that. And I don't believe it. I don't think perfectionism isn't true. So here's number one question for you.
Okay.
What is perfectionism to you? And number two, do you consider yourself a perfectionist?
First of all, what is perfectionism to me? It's a plague. It's a mind plague that eats away at your life and your time. It's so funny too, because I was talking about how I feel like I have to have everything perfect. I feel like I have to give it, 110%, that whole I'm going to give it everything my all kind of a thing. And I was talking about it because I'm still finishing up school as well. I'm in college, and what's interesting is that I'm being told more and more, not only by professors, but also by, fellow students who have recently graduated and they're trying to enter the workforce, that employers are not looking for straight A students. They don't want them because they view that type of a personality as being difficult to get along with. Somebody who's it's hard to get results from them. They don't work well in teams, So a true perfectionist personality is not a good thing. there's detail orientation, and there's orientation to detail, there's being detail oriented, and then there's perfectionism. Perfection simply does not exist on this planet, but at the same time it kind of does, and here's how. Like, the way things grow, the way, like, this is what I'm thinking of when I think of perfection. It does exist in nature, but on a very small, minor scale. Like, have you ever seen those succulents, like hen and chicks, when they grow, or like roses when they grow?
Yeah.
They have a symmetry, or crystals or snowflakes. They have a perfect symmetry. There's
They're symmetrical and
yes, but at the same time, the snow doesn't fall in a symmetrical pile. The crystals are not all the same size when they grow. Some are
yeah.
small and some are askew, and they might be perfect in their molecular structure, but on a grander scale, there is no perfection, and there's kind of a beauty in the fact, or like trees, like their leaves might all have that little plan, but each leaf has imperfections in it. One got eaten off, one got chewed on by a bug, another one is maybe dead, it didn't get enough nutrients, it's falling off, another, you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
And so that's the same thing with us. We were created by nature perfectly, but the expression of life is messy and asymmetric, and has a tendency to encounter chaos regularly. And the function of chaos on our lives and on our bodies, and just the function of decay, is, I did not silence my phone, the function of that is going to be messy and imperfect. And so that's some of my feelings about imperfection, is that mentally, if you're going to be a perfectionist, it can be completely and utterly debilitating. And for me, it stops me from creating, because I'm like, well, if I can't get it right the first time, I'm just not going to do it at all.
Yes, it like stops you before you even begin.
Or it stops me from finishing something. I'll keep working on it and working on it and working on it, because it's never perfect. It's like that one painting that you told me. You're like, it's done.
Yes, stop working on it. Yes.
But it's done.
Yes, and that's something that my answer to this would be, I used to think like that too, of I always had to keep going and going because it didn't look like how I wanted it to look like. It didn't look pretty to me. It looked like a piece of trash. And that's something that I taught myself. I said, okay, I'm going to allow myself to just let this go, and let things be, and let things be what they are and how they are. Like the process, like if I sketches, preliminary sketches, I do some research, pick out some cool techniques that I want to mimic maybe, and then doing all of that process, I get this image of my head of, oh, it's going to look like this, and it's going to blah, blah, blah. But then I do it and it looks completely different. And so I had to say to myself, no, let it be what it is. And the thing that's really important is to have the experience, is
Yes.
to enjoy the experience of while you're doing it, and then enjoy the product that comes after it as it is. No judgment.
Right, absolutely. The only works of art that I've ever done that have been awesome have been complete mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, it was a freak of nature accident that happened, and it was something that happened when I was just in the flow. And every single time, Kezia, I have tried to replicate that, I can't do it.
You can't do it. One of a kind.
One of a kind. And I will never do it again. I could never study enough to do it right, or to do it the way I ended up doing it on accident.
Yes.
You end up embracing the unique things. There's a beauty in the way you get stuff that's...
There's a beauty in things that are jank.
Yes.
I prefer things that are original and that look a little off and that may look kind of like gross.
Yes.
And like real. I really enjoy things that are real, that like tell a story and that have texture to it. It's like
Yes.
watching HGTV and those house hunter shows.
Yes.
Where
Oh my
these
gosh.
people are like, oh no, I like an open floor plan and I have to have granite countertops and stainless steel appliances in my kitchen. Otherwise, I just don't want it. It's gross. It's ew. You know, even though granite countertops and stainless steel appliances are gross and they don't add character, or it's like people who constantly have a wardrobe full of browns.
Brown?
And like brown neutrals.
Oh, yes.
Put some color in there. Give it some personality, you know?
I gotta tell you this. You're talking about HGTV. Will and I were watching House Hunters like a couple days ago. We were out at the farm and we were watching House Hunters, just chilling out after they'd done some work on the farm. There was this lady who she's like, she wanted it. She's like, I want it to look modern. And so, of course, the realtor is like, okay, well, you know, she's trying to find out what modern means to this lady. Apparently, if it was white, it was modern. So she would like point to hideous things. Like she'd be like, see, look at those cabinets. They're so white. Don't they look so modern? Oh, well, that looks nice and modern. You know, she's pointed, if it was white, it was modern. I about died because every time I thought of you.
I have seen an episode where the realtor was showing them people who had, or the houses that had white in the kitchen that was like almost white. And the person thought it was gross, like it looked like a hospital because it was white. And to her, it was like, ew, this is gross because it feels sterile like a hospital.
I know. It just cracks me up. It cracks me up.
Yes. Perfectionism does not exist. Embrace the weirdness that is inside of you.
Yes. And while you're at it, might I say, just embrace yourself, because your weirdness and your non-perfection is part of what makes you you. It's part of what it means that you have experience. It means that you've been through trials. It means that you've made it through some serious crap. Yes. And that's okay. You know, scars, flabby skin. I don't know.
So the last little part of the chapter was talking about jealousy. And the only thing that comes into my mind, I saw this meme on Facebook this week that had a picture of, you know, a guy in a suit. And then he was facing the camera. And then he was embracing like a girl in like a fancy dress. And her back was to the camera. And it said, boys will make other girls, no. Oh man, what was it? Something about being jealous, where a boy with a girlfriend, another girl, you would be jealous if another girl was with him. But a gentleman and a real man would make other girls jealous of you.
Is it one of those memes where it's like, aren't you glad you've got a real man, America?
It actually looked kind of 50 Shades-ish.
Oh, whatever.
Only it wasn't like risque or anything.
Okay, well that is like a dumb example, because I did not even understand what you were trying to say.
I don't understand things I try to say either. So how about we'll just
jealousy?
leave it.
Are you talking about jealousy in terms of being an artist? Because here's the deal: you can't be jealous of other people's work, because they can't do what you do, and you can't do what they do.
Of like in the book, but since I saw that meme this week, I was thinking about jealousy and something about a boy and a gentleman and
I don't know what men have to do with any of this.
so being jealous of other people's work, and I definitely feel jealous of other people's work a lot. But I have the same thing with the perfectionism. That's something I have to teach myself to learn how to love the stuff that comes out of me, and appreciating and really liking the work that other people do, but not letting yourself get so wound up in maybe lusting after someone else's work and thinking your stuff is really bad because you like this other person's work, because it's usually the same about the other person.
Yes.
They're usually jealous about, like, you're jealous of them, they're jealous to you.
Well, I would also ask real quick, if we want to examine this, is this like a famous artist that you're jealous of right now?
Well, I'm thinking of recently a guy that was in my class last semester, that it was in a few of my classes. His work I really liked, and I really liked his style. I really enjoyed. He was the exhibit that I showed you.
Did he have the
You
oil paintings?
loved his nudes. He was really great portrait.
Yes. Oh gosh.
Oil
He had
portrait.
photograph quality.
Yes, he's very good at that, but he also does really awesome abstracts, and I loved his abstracts. They were muted in color, but they had lots of texture, and it was just natural for him. That's just what came out, sort of a thing. But anyway, we would go back and talk like, "Oh, I really like your stuff," and he's like, "Oh, I really like how you did this and this," and yeah. You can appreciate someone else's stuff without dogging on your own stuff. And
exactly. And that's what I think the key is. I think it's good to have some sort of, I don't know, I think jealousy can kind of move you forward so long as you don't get stuck there. I think when you're looking at someone else's work and that makes you want to do work similar to that, I think that it can really expand your art a great deal, especially if you have the luxury of being able to communicate with that artist. Like you were talking about, he was a fellow student. You had the opportunity to talk to him about, like, how did you do this technique and stuff. Like,
yeah.
Man, I wish I could do that. That feeling moves you forward and actually helps you increase your skill. I think where the jealousy goes wrong, and I think that, first of all, I think admiring somebody else's art and just wishing you could do that, I don't think that is jealousy. I think the jealousy is having an ill spirit and wanting to ruin what they do because it's so great, and that it's better than what you do, or better than what you do.
Or like,
but you seek to destroy them.
Yeah.
You seek to tear them down because you think the only way that your work's going to look okay is if they're not around. I think that's probably what we mean when we talk about jealousy, because admiration and desire to be like another artist, that's admirable, because that's part of how you find your voice, right? Steal like an artist.
Steal like an artist. Yes. Which I'm going through that book, and I'm going to write my own. I'm writing my own version of that.
Ooh, fun.
Of, what do you call it? To counteract. Okay, I read this book and I read your ideas, and I'm going to respond by giving my own feedback.
There you go. You're going to steal like an artist who steals like an artist.
Steal like an artist who steals like an artist, and I'm gonna. Okay. Yeah, so that's what I'm working on next.
Well, that sounds fun. I can't wait about
the artist way stuff. So
fun.
Well, thank you for the conversation. That was all we had this week.
Okay.
And yeah. So just so you know, everybody knows, I am switching my website to a new provider. So that is going to be a little in the mix-up this week. And so I'm working on shifting everything to the new site. So my URL will be Kezia Carter Studio .com. No more dashes, no more hyphens, no more periods, no more anything.
KiesiaCarterStudio.com.
There you go.
And you're eventually going to switch all the links so that no matter what, down in the links in the videos, it'll be.
Yes, I'll eventually switch all the links on in the YouTube, etc., so forth and so forth. So,
etc. Okay. But right now, if you want to visit a half-done site, you can go to KiesiaCarterStudio.com.
Yes, you can visit
and if you want to visit my half-done site, you can go to KristaKubie.com.
What do you mean half-done site? Your site's pretty good.
Oh, I've got some blogging up there, but I'm still working on the about page. I'm actually formulating what I'm doing next. I'm working with some ladies out in California. They're doing a red tent. I'm going to be speaking for them, maybe doing a little bit of belly dancing. So that's coming up.
I didn't know you were going to be totally like involved in their little thing. That's cool.
Well, it's for this time around this month. I had a good connection with them the other day, so it was fun. Okay. And if you're watching, hello. And so I've got that coming up, but I'll give you more information as it's coming down the pike.
Okay, sounds good.
So okay.
See you guys next week, week 8. Take it easy.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.